A generous and benevolent wealthy merchant built a magnificent mansion in the city. One evening, the merchant heard knocking at his door, but couldn't see anyone when he opened it, only hearing the sound of knocking. This strange occurrence repeated several times. Frustrated, the merchant shouted, "Are you a person or a ghost?" After a moment, a voice replied that it was indeed a ghost who lived nearby, explaining that his home had been washed away by a flood, leaving him and his family with nowhere to go. He humbly requested to temporarily stay at the merchant's house until they found a new place. The merchant was initially hesitant, fearing that a ghost would harm humans. However, the ghost assured him that they would not harm anyone, and he knew of the merchant's reputation for kindness and integrity. Eventually, the merchant agreed to their request and provided them with the hall for accommodation, ensuring others stayed out of that area. The merchant had a fondness for poetry, and the ghost surprisingly expressed an interest in poetry as well. They decided to engage in a friendly exchange of poetry. The merchant prepared wine and placed paper and ink on the table. Initially, the wine and paper remained untouched. But within moments, the wine was consumed, and the paper was filled with beautiful verses. Dozens of intriguing poems were written in fine calligraphy. The merchant inquired about the ghost's name, but the ghost suggested he try to deduce it from the verses. Despite his attempts, the merchant couldn't decipher the ghost's name. One day, the ghost asked for the use of the merchant's rear hall, explaining that his son was getting married and wished to borrow the space for 3 days. The merchant readily agreed and prepared the hall for their use. After the wedding, the ghost returned the hall to the merchant, thanking him for his generosity. Over a year later, the ghost informed the merchant that he would be departing. The merchant was away on business, and his family grew anxious. The ghost assured them that he would check on the merchant. He discovered that the merchant had married a concubine and found them in bed together. In jest, the ghost burnt a hole in their canopy. He then joyfully shared this humorous incident with the merchant's family before leaving. Upon the merchant's return, everything transpired exactly as the ghost had described. The merchant decided to find the ghost's dwelling, but his search was in vain. Recalling a poem written by the ghost, the merchant finally understood the ghost's identity. He was an ancient poet renowned for his literary masterpieces. The merchant marveled at the fact that he had unknowingly made friends with a ghostly poet.